Hello and welcome to Supreme Commander Forged Alliance, getting started with the economy. Now, the economy is one of the subjects in this game that gets asked a lot of questions about it from newer players. A lot of newer players struggle to understand some of the concepts in the beginning, and it can be a bit of a learning curve. So we're going to go over some of the concepts in depth here in this video. Starting with the two basic resources in Supreme Commander, which are mass and energy, or power. So we can see up here in our upper left-hand corner, we have our mass. We can see how much mass we're producing, how much mass we have in storage, as well as how much mass we're spending. Same thing with power. We see how much we have in storage, how much we're producing versus how much we're expending per second. It's always a good idea to look at this regularly to make sure your numbers are where they need to be and that you're not stalling or about to run out of any particular resource. So we'll go ahead and dive right into the actual resource production facilities, starting with the mass extractors. So here we have a Tech 1 mass extractor. This outputs 2 mass per second with a cost of 2 power per second, or a power drain. The T1 mass extractor is by far the cheapest at a cost of only 36 mass. So this pays itself back within 18 seconds. Very cheap, and with the drawback of producing a very small amount of mass. At the Tech 2 stage, we do have the Tech 2 mass extractor. This costs considerably more. It costs 900 mass versus the 36 of the Tech 1. However, it produces 3 times as much mass per second at 6 per second, and it does drain 9 power per second as well. Then over here we have the Tech 3 mass extractor. Now, to upgrade from a Tech 2 mass extractor to a Tech 3, it does cost 4,600 mass. So it is quite a lot of investment, and you would only really want to build a Tech 3 mass extractor somewhere where you know that it's going to be safe and you can defend it. Bear in mind, too, that you're able to upgrade straight from Tech 1 to Tech 3 just by clicking these buttons here. We see on the Tech 1 we have these options here as well. The Tech 3 mass extractor does also drain 54 power per second. So we see a massive increase in the cost as well as the health, from only 760 health for the T1 to 9,000 for the T3. So the T3 is just a flat improvement. It's an exponential upgrade. So you do want to be getting to Tech 3 mass extractors as quickly as possible to take advantage of the increased income. Now we're going to talk about power. Tech 1 power generators, as we see here, this is all UEF, by the way, using the UEF faction to demo these. So this is a Tech 1 power generator that produces 20 power per second, and it does cost 75 mass to build one of these, which doesn't seem like a lot, but it also produces very little power. And as we'll see when we get to the higher tech power generators, they produce significantly more mass for much better efficiency ratio. So the Tech 2 power generator produces 500 power per second, while only costing 1,200 mass. So this is a 2 to 3 times improvement over the Tech 1. And then the Tech 3, same story. The Tech 3 power generator costs 3,240 mass while producing 2,500 power. So it's producing 5 times more than the T2 power generator while being less than 3 times its cost. So it's a significant improvement, and you definitely want to be utilizing Tech 3 power as quickly as possible. So now we're going to go over adjacency a little bit. Adjacency is something unique to Supreme Commander, I believe. I believe other games have done a little bit of it, but the adjacency system in this game is quite good, and it does give you some bonuses. So we're going to cover those now. So here we have a Tech 1 power generator that is surrounded on all 4 sides by Tech 1 energy storage. These increase its output, in addition to the storage buildings themselves storing additional power for us in our power banks. This has the disadvantage of these energy storages being like mobile bombs. They're extremely fragile, and when they explode, they do a lot of damage, several hundred damage to anything in the radius. However, it does increase the power production of this from 20 to 30. So it's a significant increase. Likewise for the Tech 2 power generator, we see that the one without the coverage or the one without being surrounded by storages, it only produces 500, whereas this one produces 750. So it's an increase of 25 to 35%, I believe, or it's an increase of 50%, excuse me. It is an increase of 50%, 500 to 750, so it's plus 250. So it is a 50% increase in both of these cases, and this does scale across the techs, because we see the same thing here. From the unsurrounded versus the surrounded, we see an increase of 2,500 to 3,750. So again, increasing it by 50%. So this is a significant increase in power production for this unit. Just 2 of these would be equivalent to 3 of these. So definitely a big advantage in terms of production, with the disadvantage of being very volatile. If even just a little bit of damage is sustained in this area, this whole thing is going to explode. So that's power adjacency. Now for mass, it's a similar story. The proper way to tech up and increase your mass production is to start with a Tech 1 mass extractor, like we see here. Then you want to upgrade it to Tech 2. This increases its production by a factor of 3. Then you want to surround it by mass storages. So we see the difference here between a Tech 2 mass extractor unsurrounded produces 6 mass, whereas a Tech 2 mass extractor surrounded with mass storages increases to plus 9 mass. So again, it's that 50% increase. Now, an interesting note, we do not surround Tech 1 mass extractors with storages because, well, it's simply not worth it. Mass storages also cost mass. They cost 200 mass apiece, so that's 800 mass to surround this. For an increase of only 0.5 mass, or I should say only 1 mass increase, it just isn't worth it. So we wait to upgrade it to Tech 2, then we surround with storages. Once it has been surrounded with storages, then we upgrade to Tech 3. We can see that here. So this is a Tech 3 mass extractor surrounded by storages. It's producing 27 mass per second. So this is a significant increase over that unupgraded, unsurrounded Tech 1 mass extractor. There's actually a very easy way to do this now. It used to be we had to either manually place the storages, which was very slow. But now, Forged Alliance Forever has made this very simple. You simply select a group of engineers, right-click on the mass extractor, and they will build the storages automatically. So for those of you wondering how to do this efficiently, this is the way to do it. Just use a group of engineers, right-click the mass extractors, and they'll build the storages automatically. Okay, so now that we've covered that, we want to continue talking about some adjacency bonuses, but I want to give some examples of some bad adjacency bonuses. For example, here we have some mass extractors that have been surrounded with power generators instead. Now, this does have the advantage of reducing the power drain of the mass extractors. For instance, we see that this Tech 1 mass extractor has had its drain reduced from 2 down to 1, and we can see that more clearly by using the economy overlay, which gives us more detailed economy information. So this mass extractor is only draining 1.5 power instead of 1, or instead of 2 rather. However, this is simply not worth it. At the Tech 1 stage, it would be better to not surround it at all. If you did, maybe surrounding it with power, but honestly, for 0.5 power, it just isn't worth it. Same thing at the Tech 2 level. This is reducing the amount of power this drains by from 9 to 6 to 8.8, I believe that reads. Yeah, 8.8. Or 6.8, I think, because down here it says 6, so it must be a 6.8, yeah. However, you have the opportunity cost of not putting mass storage around the mass extractor instead, which would increase the mass income. And realistically, in Supreme Commander, you're going to be more limited by your mass income than by your power. After all, if you don't have enough power, then just build more power generators. We've already talked about how efficient the higher tech ones are, so to save 3 power with the opportunity cost of 3 additional mass per second, it just isn't worth it. And this only gets worse with tech. Here we're reducing the power cost from, 54 to 40. I mean, you're not even saving one whole Tech 1 power generator, which only costs 75 mass. The additional 7 mass or 9 mass you would be producing could pay that back in less than a minute. Actually, several seconds even. So it just doesn't make sense to surround your mass extractors with power. Always surround them with storages instead. So some examples of good adjacency, however, this actually has quite an impact on combat in some areas, is actually to surround artillery installations with power generators. It increases the fire rate quite considerably, and I'm going to demonstrate that here with these Tech 2 Klinkhammer, these T2 artillery installations, actually one of my favorite units in the game. I think they look great and they sound great, and we're going to demo them firing now. So we see that this Tech 2 artillery is not surrounded. This one is, just with T1 power. So this is very cheap, 75 mass times 4 to surround this. And we're going to see what the difference in fire rate between these two units is. So I'm just going to issue a fire order. So they fired slightly different times. Let's try to not make that happen again. So we'll just wait here, wait for them to reload. But you can already see that this one is filling up a lot faster. Okay, they fired at the same time, and now we see how much quicker the bar is filling up on this one. Because it is surrounded by power plants or energy power generators, we can see that it's reloading quite quicker. These units also do drain power. So this one is draining 100 power, while this one is only draining 90. Sorry, these numbers are kind of small and hard to read. But we can see that this is a significant advantage. This one's firing, I would say, 10 to 20% faster, roughly. It's getting 2 shots in the time it takes this one to make, or it's getting maybe 3 shots in, while this one's getting maybe 2 shots in. So definitely an advantage. This is also the case at the Tech 3 stage. It's actually even bigger of a difference. So here we have 2 Dukes, the Tech 3 artillery, heavy artillery installations from UEF. Here we have one that is not surrounded by anything, and here we have one that is surrounded by Tech 3 power generators. So we're just going to select both of these. We're going to select this target. We see they both fired, their shells are in the air, and we see how much quicker this one fired. So this one already fired, this one is still reloading. This one fired, now this one's fired. So this one's firing twice as quickly as this one. And as you can imagine, this is a huge advantage to be able to fire your artillery installation twice as fast. So that's a big advantage for these units, and definitely something you want to be taking advantage of. So we've gone over some adjacency bonuses for artillery, but there's also some adjacency bonuses to take advantage in terms of factories. So what I have here is I have 2 Tech 3 air factories, and what we're going to do with these is we're going to cause them, or we're going to order them to both build air superiority fighters, or ASFs, and these units drain a considerable amount of power. But we're just going to see how much quicker and how much cheaper this one runs than this one. So we see that these are both producing the exact same unit. This one is draining 1600 power per second to make an air superiority fighter. This one is only draining 400 power per second. Now the build rate is exactly the same. However, this one is draining far, far less power. So if you're going to be a dedicated air player at the Tech 3 air stage, the new meta, or I should say the recommended build strategy, is to actually build your air factories surrounded by power generators like this. So you want to kind of build them in an array like this. You would build another factory here. So you would build like another factory, then another power generator here and here, and then just keep building with this template until you have a much larger group of buildings. And this is also another example of what I consider to be good use of adjacency. This is still kind of dangerous because these units are very volatile, but these are actually mass fabricators. So it is possible in Supreme Commander to actually increase the amount of mass you produce by building a mass fabricator. So this drains power to create mass. It's kind of like think of it as kind of like a converter. So it's converting power into mass, basically. So here we have a shield generator, 4 power generators, and 4 mass extractors. And this is kind of an optimal adjacency because we see that this T3 heavy shield generator is only draining 100 power per second, which is significantly lower than the minus 400 we see here as the readout. So it's a massive decrease in the amount of power required to run this shield. And the same thing with these mass fabricators. The amount of power they require is massively reduced from the 1500 that's listed down here. And you can improve this further by placing power generators like this and keep building this pattern in whatever direction you want. So this would be what would be called a mass fab farm. In the very, very, very late game stage, you might build something like this to continue to grow your economy after you've upgraded every single mass extractor to Tech 3 and have surrounded them all with storages. This would be the next progression in your economy. So now that we've talked about some adjacency bonuses, good versus bad, we're going to go back to talking about that volatility thing. So down here we have a Cybran commander who has placed his structures in a very efficient way, you can say, because he has energy storages surrounding his power generators, surrounding his nuke launcher, which dramatically reduce the amount of power that it requires to run this nuke launcher. Same thing with his nuke defense. He's placed next to both a power generator as well as a mass extractor. This reduces the power and mass it drains to create anti-nukes. But he doesn't have any shields on this, and this looks just like an incredibly juicy target. So we're going to see what happens when we select our Duke. We allow it to open fire, and we tell it to target this nuke launcher. And we're going to see what happens when it fires just one shell at this incredibly juicy target. So it's getting to position now. It's fired. We see the shell coming, and hopefully it lands on target. There is a certain amount of firing randomization on these targets, but it looks like it hits true, and we see the chain reaction that is caused. It's absolutely devastating. One shell, his entire base went up, his commander died. We can see here, yep, his commander's gone. His base is in tatters. And folks, this is what happens when you put energy storages around your power generators next to nuke launchers and don't build shields. Your stuff dies. So this has been an episode of Supreme Commander Forged Alliance, getting started with the economy. Hopefully this was useful to you. There's a lot of concepts about the economy, and I was trying to cover as many of them as I can in a short video. If there's more questions that are had and there's more interest in this, I can make another video going into more depth about any one of these particular concepts. But that'll be it for today. I thank you everyone for watching, and have a good day.